Fifth-generation fighters. It is perhaps the most popular and discussed topic related to combat aviation today. Only a few countries develop and deploy such aircraft, and thousands of people, varying in degrees of expertise, debate their flight and technical characteristics, and discuss whether a particular fighter belongs to the fifth generation or not. The concept of conformity is in many ways the cornerstone of these discussions. It is generally believed that a combat aircraft should possess a specific set of qualities distinctive for this generation. However, there is no official document in the world that defines clear criteria for a fifth-generation fighter. Historically, the starting point for this definition was the aircraft created by the United States in the 1990s. It had a specific set of flight and technical characteristics that fighters loosely categorized as fourth generation did not have. This difference formed the aviation community's perception of the next fifth generation. The history of this aircraft spans 3 full decades. At the outset, there was a battle for the right to exist against a formidable opponent, followed by an extended period of refinement and development, after which the fighter began to be adopted by the military. Subsequently, there was an early cessation of production and a complete ban on exports. In our time, these machines are being upgraded to extend their service life and enhance their combat potential. Hello everyone, this is Dr. Manhattan, and today we will talk about the Lockheed Martin F-22 Raptor fighter. The introduction of the F-22 caused quite a stir in the aviation world. The first pre-production fighter took to the skies on September 7, 1997. By this time, some flight, tactical, and technical characteristics had already been announced by the manufacturer. Obviously, Lockheed Martin did not yet have real data on the new aircraft. 8 prototype planes were still to undergo a testing program with a total duration of 5,000 flight hours, but the anticipated value of key parameters did not come out of thin air. In the early 90s, the military held the ATF, or Advanced Tactical Fighter Competition, to create a next-generation air dominance fighter. Lockheed Martin presented the YF-22 demonstrator aircraft, and at the end of the competition, they were declared winners. The future F-22 was to be developed based on these prototype aircraft, retaining the key features that impressed the military. Some achievements of the YF-22 demonstrator aircraft were published in the press after the competition, and the announced data for the serial combat aircraft did not differ much from them. The F-22, built in close accordance with the ATF program requirements, incorporated all the characteristic features of fourth-generation fighters. However, it differed from them with a specific set of new qualities, expanding its combat potential. First and foremost, it's the set of measures for significantly reducing the aircraft's visibility in radar and infrared ranges. The fighter's airframe has radar-reflecting shapes with extensive use of radar-absorbing materials. To reduce thermal visibility, the engine nozzles are flattened to lower the temperature of the exhaust gas stream. Another crucial feature of the F-22 is the ability for supersonic cruise flight without using afterburners. This quality, combined with its low observability, can provide a certain tactical advantage in air combat. To improve maneuverability, the engine nozzles are equipped with thrust vectoring, significantly enhancing control at low speeds and high angles of attack. All these fighter qualities are complemented by an onboard electronic equipment suite, the most important of which is a radar system with an active phased array and a 360-degree warning system operating in passive mode. The logic behind the development of the F-22 in its specific configuration can be explained by delving into history. In 1976, the United States Air Force introduced the McDonnell Douglas F-15 air superiority fighter. The F-15 belonged to the fourth generation of fighters and was designed to replace the F-4 Phantom II interceptor. Compared to the F-4, the F-15 had higher maneuverability, incorporated lessons learned from combat with Soviet MiG-21s, and featured a more advanced radar system capable of using new types of missiles. With the introduction of the F-15C and the two-seat F-15D models, these aircraft became the primary air superiority fighters of the U.S. Armed Forces. Simultaneously, with their introduction, the U.S. Air Force was already contemplating the future replacement. It's worth noting that the F-15 project was strongly criticized for its very high cost per aircraft. According to some reports, it cost 5 to 7 times more than the latest modifications of the F-4. This circumstance, among others, led to the development of a more affordable, lightweight fighter, the General Dynamics F-16. To shape the future air dominance fighter, the U.S. Air Force initiated the Advanced Tactical Fighter, or ATF research program. Detailed information about the ATF program remains classified, but the general requirements imposed on the aircraft were published in the media. In 1983, these requirements were distributed to leading American aerospace companies and turbojet engine manufacturers to assess the viability of the proposed concept. According to the requirements of the program, the prospective fighter had to possess at least 3 characteristics: low observability, supercruise capability without afterburners, and short takeoff and landing distance. Low observability had never before been a primary requirement for a fighter. The main reason for including this aspect in the program was the emergence of the Lockheed F-117 Nighthawk tactical strike aircraft in the early 1980s. This aircraft was the first in history to be designed exclusively around the concept of reducing radar and thermal visibility. To achieve this goal, a comprehensive set of measures was applied to the aircraft. The F-117's airframe featured flattened, faceted shapes intended to reflect radar signals away from detecting radars. The aircraft had no external pylons, and all weapons were housed in an internal cargo bay. Nearly all joints and seams were serrated edges. The engine nozzles were elongated and flattened to reduce the temperature of the exhaust gases, and they were additionally cooled with cold air drawn in from the engine intakes. This combination of measures significantly reduced the detection range of the F-117. The military recognized the effectiveness and potential of the low visibility concept, and they proposed to implement it on the ATF fighter as part of the competition. This task was the most challenging for aerospace engineers because all measures to reduce visibility inevitably lead to worsened aerodynamics and decreased maneuverability. The second most significant requirement for the prospective ATF fighter was the ability to supercruise, which means flying at supersonic speed without using afterburners. This capability not only allowed for fuel savings and increased supersonic range, but it also significantly reduced thermal visibility. Previously, only passenger aircraft like the Anglo-French Concorde and the Soviet Tu-144 had this capability. The final requirements for the ATF program were established in the mid-1980s. The U.S. Air Force expected aerospace manufacturers to deliver an aircraft with significantly superior potential compared to the existing F-15C fighter. In the fall of 1986, the primary contractor firms were selected, and they were given 4 years to build prototype aircraft and conduct head-to-head comparisons of their flight and technical characteristics. Based on the results, the U.S. Air Force would determine the winner and initiate full-scale development of the advanced fighter. The culmination of the ATF program came with the flight test of the prototype aircraft in the second half of 1990. Lockheed, in collaboration with Boeing and General Dynamics, entered the competition with 2 prototypes designated YF-22. Northrop, in partnership with McDonnell Douglas, presented a pair of experimental aircraft, the YF-23. In addition to the aerospace companies, manufacturers of turbojet engines also participated in the competition. Pratt & Whitney's engine was designated YF-119, while General Electric produced the YF-120. These engines were paired up and installed on each of the aircraft for the competing companies for direct performance comparisons. The Northrop YF-23 stood out with its unique external appearance. The aircraft featured a diamond-shaped high-wing design and had 2 entirely movable tail surfaces set at a significant angle to the vertical axis, instead of the conventional combination of rudders and stabilizers. In comparison, Lockheed's YF-22 looked more conservative and had a layout resembling the F-15. The flight testing phase for all prototypes took place from August to December 1990. In April of 1991, the U.S. Air Force announced the winner. Lockheed's YF-22 project with Pratt & Whitney YF-119 engines was selected for further full-scale development. While official military representatives did not provide detailed explanations for the choice in the press, there is a particular logic behind this decision. The selection process likely considered a combination of factors, including the aircraft's performance, capabilities, cost efficiency, and overall suitability for the U.S. Air Force's needs. Ultimately, the YF-22 was deemed the most promising candidate for the future air superiority fighter. Indeed, both competitors in the ATF program met the program's basic requirements. The demonstrator aircraft possessed low observability, super cruise capability, and relatively short takeoff and landing distances, and they were closely matched in these characteristics. This became evident during the flight test program, with Lockheed conducting more flights, 74, compared to 50 flights by Northrop. The detailed results and outcomes of the testing program likely played a significant role in the U.S. Air Force's decision. For the prospective ATF fighters, long-range missile engagement was chosen as the primary tactic from the outset. Leveraging their advantage in low observability, these aircraft were meant to engage in long-range missile combat, avoiding close-range dogfights. Their primary weapon for this purpose was the new medium-range AIM-120 AMRAAM missile, with a launch range of approximately 43 miles or 70 kilometers. Both aircraft were well adapted to this tactic as they exhibited good maneuverability at supersonic speeds, a crucial factor for survivability during such engagements as they would need to evade incoming enemy missiles. However, the crucial difference lay in their subsonic maneuverability, where Lockheed's prototype had a significant advantage due to thrust vectoring engine nozzles. This feature allowed for enhanced maneuverability at subsonic speeds, which was valuable in air combat scenarios. During testing, the YF-22 demonstrated confident control at low speeds and angles of attack of about 60 degrees, showcasing its superior subsonic maneuverability. In contrast, the YF-23 significantly lagged behind with a maximum angle of attack not exceeding 25 degrees, which was lower than what Northrop's engineers had hoped for. The U.S. Air Force could have reasonably concluded that the Lockheed competitor had a better chance of surviving in close-range air combat. Generally, close-range combat was considered undesirable from a tactical standpoint, but given the high closing speeds in aerial engagements, it could escalate quickly within seconds. To address this potential scenario, both prototypes were equipped with only two short-range AIM-9 Sidewinder missiles and a 20mm aircraft gun. Comparing the aircraft of both competitors, we can say that Lockheed, along with its partners, presented more mature and less problematic prototypes for the competition. These prototypes demonstrated the required characteristics, whereas the Northrop YF-23 required significant refinement to catch up with its rival in some aspects. For instance, issues with the air intakes and oversized engine nacelles limited the YF-23's maximum speed to Mach 1.85, while the Lockheed competitor achieved higher speeds in one of its flights. Despite the technical challenges and the ultimate outcome in the competition, engineers from Northrop, along with their partners from McDonnell Douglas, deserve credit for designing an unusual and, as many consider it, genuinely beautiful aircraft. They implemented bold and original solutions in their YF-23 prototype. Notably, the tail configuration consisting of just two all-moving tail surfaces and the upper-mounted engine nozzles were quite innovative. This nozzle design, previously used by Northrop on the stealthy B-2 Spirit bomber, not only significantly reduced thermal visibility, but also contributed to the lift generation through the Coanda effect or super circulation. The YF-23 outperformed the YF-22 in terms of supersonic cruise speed, flight range, takeoff distance, and likely would have surpassed it in maximum speed if not for issues with controlling the boundary layer at the air intakes. Despite its shortcomings, the YF-23 showcased several cutting-edge design features and demonstrated its potential in certain aspects of performance. Nevertheless, both prototypes from Northrop never took to the skies again and were later transferred to a museum. Lockheed, as the Victor, continued its research using one of the two F-22 aircraft. In April 1992, during a landing approach simulation, an accident occurred, marking the end of the flight program for the prototypes. The aircraft suffered significant damage but was later restored and displayed at the celebration of the 50th anniversary of the U.S. Air Force.
The problem was one of having a prototype flight control system that was not designed to be used in that flight environment. It had some sensitivity, some known sensitivity. And unfortunately, it caught that particular pilot on that particular day and caused the resulting accident.
Fast forwarding to our times, almost 3 decades have passed since the ATF competition winner was announced. Before discussing in detail what happened during this period, let's summarize. The new air superiority fighter received its official designation as Lockheed Martin F-22A and entered service in the United States Air Force. A minor naming adjustment came during the merger with Martin Marietta in 1995. Traditionally, the letter A after the number is added to the first variants of all types of American military aircraft. In 1996, the F-22 was given the name we all know, the Raptor. Before this, it was unofficially called Lightning II in homage to the American World War II fighter, the Lockheed P-38. This nickname wasn't retained for long. A decade later, it was appropriated for the F-35. The journey of the F-22, from its conception to its entry into service, is a testament to the continuous evolution and innovation in aviation technology. Its multifaceted capabilities have positioned it as one of the most advanced air superiority fighters in the world. The initial plans for the ATF program envisioned the purchase of 750 advanced fighters, but the subsequent course of history brought significant changes. In total, only 197 F-22 aircraft were built. This includes the 2 prototypes used in the competition, 8 pre-production models, and 187 serial production F-22As. Considering the substantial reduction in procurement numbers, the question of whether the F-22 could replace the F-15 in operational units is of great interest. There's a widespread belief that this transition never fully happened. The main argument often cited is the relatively small number of F-22s produced compared to the significantly larger fleet of F-15s that are still in service. However, the replacement has effectively taken place, and to be more precise, it's in its final stages. Production of F-15C fighters in their 2-seat training variants ceased in 1985, when around 575 aircraft were produced. This means that even the youngest F-15s are now 35 years old, and according to the Air Force's plans, they will be phased out by 2025. In practice, the F-22 began to replace the F-15 in the early 2010s when there were more combat-ready Raptors than combat-ready Eagles. It's worth noting that this replacement doesn't apply to the F-15E Strike Eagle, whose primary mission is ground attack. The paradox of the situation lies in the fact that the F-22, originally designed as an air dominance fighter, has notably served as a frontline bomber in real combat missions, using precision-guided munitions against ground targets. The F-22's operational career in real aerial combat has yet to begin. The F-22 program's first pre-production aircraft were presented on April 7, 1997, with the promise of taking it into the sky within the next 2 to 3 weeks. However, a series of technical issues delayed this milestone by 4 months. The first flight of the experimental F-22 took place on September 7th at Dobbins Air Reserve Base in Marietta. It lasted just under an hour and went off without any issues, according to Paul Metz, the chief test pilot for the F-22 program. He mentioned that the aircraft's behavior in the air was almost identical to what they had experienced in simulators, allowing them to fully execute the planned first flight program. After this, Paul Metz became the primary source of detailed information about the Raptor for a long time. His comments to the press helped to provide a comprehensive understanding of the progress of the testing program, the developed tactics for its combat use, and some of the fighter's flight performance characteristics. Lockheed Martin, the company behind the F-22, officially published only limited information about the aircraft over nearly 2.5 decades. Some of these details were highly generalized and classified. The F-22 remains one of the most secretive military projects in the United States, and much of the information about the fighter has been deduced through empirical methods and by considering the flight characteristics of similar class aircraft. Indeed, Paul Metz has a notable career as he was involved in both the ATF competition and the subsequent F-22 program.
Our job is to be both an engineer and a pilot. We're all trained as engineers.
Before becoming the chief test pilot for the entire F-22 program, he was part of the test pilot team for Northrop and flew the first YF-23 prototype.
Now, there were only 2 of these built. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes, it was a competition. The Air Force was not sure exactly what they wanted, so this time they allowed the contractors to put together an airplane they thought would do this job of surviving in a hostile environment. And so Northrop and McDonnell Douglas built this YF-23 to meet that requirement. And of course the Lockheed Boeing General Dynamics team built their version, the YF-22, to meet that problem.
In an interview, he was asked to compare the characteristics and his experiences piloting the YF-23 and the pre-production F-22. He pointed out that comparing a prototype to a production-ready aircraft wouldn't be meaningful. It's worth noting that while the F-22 was based on the YF-22, it became an entirely new aircraft, incorporating almost all of the layout decisions from the prototype. In developing the F-22 Raptor, Lockheed's engineers focused on the primary requirements of the ATF competition. Their highest priorities were stealth and supersonic cruise mode without the use of afterburners. At the same time, they paid close attention to significantly improving maneuverability, both at low and high speeds compared to previous generation fighters. Balancing of all these conflicting requirements in one combat aircraft was a challenging task. It involved finding the best compromise solutions where each parameter didn't specifically degrade the performance of others. The F-22 Raptor represents the results of the Lockheed engineers' quest for the optimal balance between stealth, speed, and maneuverability. The measures to reduce visibility in the radar and thermal ranges had the most significant impact on the layout and external appearance of the F-22 Raptor. The surfaces and facets of the entire airframe of the F-22 are orientated in such a way to reflect radar signals in a strictly limited number of directions from the illuminating radar. This is especially noticeable from the front view, where the surfaces of the nose, air intakes, and keels are parallel, and from the top view, where the surfaces of the air intakes, wings, and stabilizers are parallel. To achieve this goal, almost all the joints of various hatches and doors on the fuselage have a sawtooth edge. The radar-absorbing materials and coatings are also used to complement the reflective capabilities of the airframe. These materials are part of the aircraft's structure. Special equipment is used to apply scattering coatings to a large part of the fighter's surface. The air intake plays a decisive role in reducing the frontal radar visibility of the F-22. Engineers paid particular attention to this element because on previous generation fighters, it contributed to most of the aircraft's visibility from the front. This occurs because the radar signal freely reaches the rapidly rotating metal blades of the engine compressor. To eliminate this phenomenon, the channels of the Raptor's air intakes have an S-shaped form, which eliminates direct visibility of the first stages of the compressor. Additionally, radar-absorbing coatings are applied to their walls to reduce the amplitude of reflected signals. Inside the air tank, there are no moving surfaces to control the cross-sectional area, which positively affects the reduction in visibility as well. To address the issue of blade obscuration, radar blockers are installed immediately behind the turbine at the engine's exhaust. These are special devices consisting of several radial arranged pedals that absorb radar waves reflected from the blades. The nozzles of the F-22's engines have a flat shape. This somewhat unconventional design for modern aviation imparts several important qualities to the fighter. The flat exhaust jet formed by these nozzles rapidly dissipates its heat. As a result, the use of non-afterburning flight modes significantly reduces the infrared visibility of the aircraft. Additional benefits of such nozzles include a reduction in radar visibility and reduced drag due to their optimal integration into the flat rear section of the fighter's airframe. The engine nozzles are also coated with heat-resistant radar-absorbing materials. The presence of internal weapon bays on the Raptor is an absolute necessity. Missiles and bombs on external pylons negate almost all efforts to reduce visibility. In radar technology, there is a concept known as radar cross-section, or RCS. Put simply, it's an abstract model that allows us to assess the reflectivity of a target. It's measured in square meters and depends on the size, shape, and materials of the target, as well as the viewing angle and the radar's operating frequency. In aviation, a specific aircraft typically has an overall RCS value, which is the average from all angles, and a frontal RCS, which is the most important for combat situations when illumination occurs head-on. Under the ATF program's requirements, the effective radar cross-section of a future fighter had to decrease by at least an order of magnitude compared to that of the F-15, and the frontal RCS had to be reduced even further. The actual values for the F-22, which can only be measured on the real aircraft under specially prepared test conditions, remains among the most highly classified secrets and are unlikely to ever be disclosed. According to the most skeptical estimates by experts, the average RCS of the F-22 ranges from 0.1 to 0.3 square meters. The frontal RCS is likely to be even lower, with the most optimistic statements suggesting values of 2 or even 3 zeros after the decimal point. This level of reflectivity is comparable to that of a small steel ball. It's not necessary to align with optimists or skeptics to understand the obvious. The task of significantly reducing RCF was accomplished by Lockheed's engineers. Thus, the F-22, with its record-low RCS values, gained one of the key components of its combat survivability: reduced detection range. Alongside its low observability, one of the F-22's crucial tactical advantages is its supercruise capability, which allows it to sustain supersonic speeds without using afterburners. This capability enables the aircraft to cover significant distances with low infrared emissions and reduce fuel consumption. It is believed that the F-22 can achieve supercruise at approximately 1.5 times the speed of sound at an altitude of around 49,000 feet or 15,000 meters. In more familiar terms, under calm atmospheric conditions, this translates to roughly 990 miles or 1,600 kilometers per hour. Paul Metz, the chief test pilot of the F-22 program, mentioned in an interview that the F-22 can maintain a supercruise speed of Mach 1.72 under certain conditions without using afterburners. This technical capability of the aircraft is realized through a combination of its specific airframe configuration and power plant. To achieve excellent aerodynamic performance at supersonic speed, the F-22's wing has a flat profile, low aspect ratio, and relatively high sweep. The internal weapons bays mandate for low observability also contribute positively to aerodynamics by reducing drag when compared to external pylons. The power plant of the F-22 consists of two Pratt & Whitney F-119 turbofan engines, specifically the PW100 modification. The true specifications of these engines are highly classified, with the manufacturer providing only limited information in a general, non-specific manner. For instance, the afterburning thrust of the engines is specified as being in the 16-ton class, but details for maximum non-afterburning mode are not disclosed. Unofficial sources suggest that this parameter is in the range of 10 to 10.5 tons. A distinguishing feature of the F-119 turbofan engine is its low bypass ratio, which is 0.2. This means that 5 times more air flows through the internal bypass compared to the external bypass, which is primarily used for cooling the engine and nozzle. The low bypass ratio, in combination with the oversized inlet, represents a compromise to achieve sustained supercruise without afterburners at high altitudes where air density is low. This combination performs best at low altitudes and slower speeds, but it comes at the cost of increased fuel consumption and the challenge of managing excessive air income. To address this, adjustable bypass doors are installed on the upper portion of the airframe to vent excess air into the atmosphere. The ATF program's primary requirements for the prospective fighter were stealth and high subsonic speeds. While the requirements for maneuverability were somewhat less prominent, they were clearly articulated. The new fighter had to significantly surpass the performance of the F-15. During the flight test of the YF-22 prototype, it became evident that Lockheed's concept for the fighter had proven itself. The aircraft demonstrated excellent acceleration characteristics and was well controlled at high angles of attack. The pre-production and the serial production F-22, while maintaining the general geometry of the airframe, had significant differences compared to the ATF prototype. For example, the wingspan and aspect ratio were increased slightly, while the landing edge sweep was reduced. The vertical tail area decreased and the nose section of the aircraft underwent substantial changes. These and many other refinements indicated an effort to make the Raptor even more maneuverable at subsonic speeds, aiming to increase its chance of victory in close combat. Potential adversaries like the MiG-29 and Su-27 had a significant advantage in close-range dogfights due to their advanced aerodynamics. The high maneuverability of the F-22 both at subsonic and supersonic speeds is the result of several key factors. Among the most important ones are high thrust-to-weight ratio, low wing loading, high maximum sustained G-load capability, and thrust vectoring capability. The integrated design and the combination of all these features were intended to compensate for the reduced aerodynamic performance due to the requirements for stealth and high sustained supersonic cruise speed. Thrust-to-weight ratio, which is the ratio of thrust to the aircraft's weight, is one of the F-22's strongest attributes. At normal takeoff weight with full fuel and weapons load, this ratio is greater than 1 and significantly increases during the aircraft's approach to the combat theater. Due to the low degree of two-dimensional thrust nozzle design, the F-22 excels in acceleration at high altitudes. The thrust vectoring system makes a significant contribution to the Raptor's maneuverability. The engine nozzles can symmetrically deflect up to 20 degrees in pitch. The thrust vectoring control is engaged continuously and works in conjunction with the horizontal tail, enhancing its effectiveness. Vectoring nozzles are particularly crucial at low speeds and high angles of attack. In context of close air combat, this becomes especially relevant in cases where the fighter has lost much of its airspeed after intense maneuvering, and the traditional control surfaces have become less effective. Thrust vectoring allows the pilot to maintain control of the aircraft and recover from high angles of attack and dangerous flight conditions. Such maneuvers can be observed in almost all demonstration flights of the Raptor and are typically performed by operational pilots. In the Raptor's demonstration program, there are maneuvers that are similar or reminiscent of those performed by Russian fighters, including maneuvers like Pugachev's Cobra, Frolov's Wheel, and others. However, the Raptor's demonstration program does not emphasize extreme maneuverability to the same extent as some other aircraft. From a tactical perspective, extreme maneuvers that lead to a significant loss of airspeed and make the aircraft an easy target for an opponent are questionable. In the demonstration program, the focus tends to be on dynamic maneuvers at high speeds and in afterburner modes, along with flights at relatively high angles of attack with rapid roll rates. These maneuvers more closely resemble the realities of aerial combat, where maintaining energy and maneuverability is often critical to survival. The advantages of thrust vectoring on the F-22 at high angles of attack extend beyond just maneuvering. According to test pilot Paul Metz, the thrust vectoring nozzles are also used for maneuvering at supersonic speeds. It turns out that during high-speed turns, the deflection of the horizontal stabilizers increases drag, leading to a loss of speed. To minimize these losses, pitch control at supersonic speeds is primarily achieved by altering the thrust vector. These and other measures to enhance the Raptor's maneuverability at high speeds and altitudes align well with its primary tactical role, long-range air-to-air combat. The F-22 was designed as an air superiority fighter, and its primary weapons are air-to-air missiles. Due to the requirements for stealth, these missiles are housed in 3 internal bays. The large central bay can carry up to 6 medium-range AIM-120 AMRAAM missiles, which are the primary weapons for engaging air targets beyond visual range. They are equipped with active radar homing seekers and can effectively engage maneuvering targets at distances of up to 30 miles or 50 kilometers. For close-in dogfights, the F-22 has only a pair of AIM-9 Sidewinder infrared-guided missiles, each housed in one of the side bays. If all missiles are expended, the aircraft's sole means of defense in a dogfight scenario is its 20mm 6-barrel Vulcan gun, which has an ammunition capacity of 480 rounds. The F-22 is capable of firing at targets while actively maneuvering at cruising supersonic speeds. To achieve this capability, each of its weapon bays is equipped with special launchers that serve different functions. In the central bay, the launchers eject the ordnance from the aircraft with acceleration, while in the side bays, they guide the missile into the airstream using a special rail, allowing the missile to safely clear the aircraft. Implementing the ability to launch from internal bays was one of the most challenging tasks of the entire program. Opening the bay doors at supersonic speeds generates intense low-frequency acoustic vibrations that could potentially damage the structure of the bays themselves or the munitions inside. Lockheed engineers drew from the experience of launching missiles from the experimental YF-12 interceptor in the mid-1960s to address this challenge. During those tests, the cargo bay doors in the YF-12 were opened at speeds exceeding the speed of sound by over 3 times. The F-22 does allow for external weapons carriage with 4 attachment points under the wings. However, due to stealth considerations for the combat configuration, this option is not commonly used. Instead of missiles under the wings, 2 fuel tanks are typically hung for extended flights or intercept missions. The aircraft's tactical situational awareness is managed by a suite of onboard avionics. At its core is the AN/APG-77 radar and the AN/ALR-94 radar warning receiver. The main feature of this combination is its ability to operate in a low probability of intercept mode, contributing further to the F-22's reduced radar visibility. The ALR-94 operates in a fully passive mode, scanning the airspace around the aircraft for radio waves emanating from enemy radars. The data it collects from dozens of receiving antennas distributed across the airframe is used to build a tactical picture and provide targeting information to the APG-77 radar, which is equipped with an active electronically scanned array antenna. The radar has a special low probability of intercept or LPI mode, which significantly reduces the detection range of airborne targets. Multiple F-22s can share collected information between aircraft through a specialized communication channel, enabling pilots to have a more comprehensive view of the theater of operations. One of the tactics employed by the F-22 Raptors is based in this capability. In this tactic, a small portion of the squadron or flight actively uses radar to search for targets, while the others operate in passive radio silence mode to maintain their stealth mode. May 2, 2012 marked a significant day for the entire F-22 program. Lockheed Martin delivered the last Raptor with the serial number 4195 to the United States Air Force. The predominant green color on the airframe is a special primer that provides adhesion between the aluminum composite skin and the applied radar-absorbing coating. On the earlier aircraft, this primer was yellow. A total of 195 F-22s were produced, of which 187 were operational. This number fell significantly short of the initial plans of Lockheed Martin and the Air Force. After the ATF competition in 1991, it was anticipated that 750 future fighters would be procured, with a unit cost not exceeding $40 million per aircraft, which was just $10 million more than the cost of an F-15. However, by 1997, several months before the pre-production F-22 took to the skies, the procurement plan was cut by more than half to 339 aircraft. Several years later, in 2004, just a year before it was officially adopted, the program underwent a final reduction to 183 aircraft, with subsequent adjustments bringing the total to 187 operational aircraft. The decision to reduce the number of F-22 Raptors produced was influenced by several factors. In 1991, the primary geopolitical rival of the time, the Soviet Union, collapsed, which gave the opponents of the program in Congress and within the military the arguments against purchasing such a large number of fighters. However, even the initial number of 750 F-22s seemed somewhat excessive. By that time, the U.S. Air Force already had approximately 250 F-15Cs in its inventory, and it was considered that this number was more than sufficient. In an attempt to improve the situation and prevent further drastic cuts in procurement, the Air Force tasked the F-22 with the capability to strike ground targets. This led to the inclusion of 990-pound Joint Direct Attack munitions and later 240-pound Joint Standoff Weapon Glide bombs in the F-22's armament. The limited internal storage space within the aircraft's bay and the absence of necessary targeting equipment on board explained the relatively modest payload options. Expanding the capabilities of the F-22 did not change the situation significantly. In the late 1990s, the Joint Strike Fighter program was initiated, resulting in the development of the F-35 with a much more extensive strike capability. As procurement orders continued to decrease, the unit cost of an F-22 kept rising, leading to the early termination of production. The average unit procurement cost of an F-22 is around $143 million, which is about 3 to 4 times higher than initially planned. The cost escalation mirrors the history of the F-15, which also ended up being significantly more expensive than the F-4. This outcome is not coincidental. Both the F-15 and F-22 were groundbreaking aircraft for their time, designed to fulfill the requirements of the U.S. Air Force. Meeting each of these requirements involved a significant amount of research, development, and engineering work, which required substantial funding. In the case of the F-22, additional expenses were incurred due to extensive modifications made to the aircraft during production. Composite materials used in the airframe had to be replaced with titanium and aluminum components after the survivability of the structure against projectile impacts was tested. Additionally, it's worth noting that the F-22 was entirely designed with the CATIA computer design system. While purchasing shared computer capabilities for most contractors would have expedited the work, it also led to significant investments. In the fall of 2006, the United States Congress imposed a permanent ban on the export of the F-22. As a result, these aircraft are only in service with the United States. At present, roughly half of the produced F-22 Raptors are in operational readiness. The rest are gradually undergoing modernization programs. The most significant upgrades include expanding the functionality of the APG-77 radar and the ability to use updated munitions. The F-22 Raptors received new missiles, the AIM-9X and AIM-120D, which have increased launch range and target engagement probability. Further extensive upgrades are planned for the entire fleet of F-22 aircraft, but final decisions regarding the timeline and the scope of these enhancements have not yet been made. The F-22 Raptors that are in active service regularly participate in various training exercises and, in general, live up to the qualities they were designed with. flights at altitudes of up to 13 miles or 20 kilometers at cruising supersonic speed, combined with the capabilities of the onboard electronic warfare systems, have consistently proven to be advantageous in long-range missile engagements. There is limited information available about the results of dogfight combat. It's known that the F-22 has participated in training engagements with European Dassault Rafale and Eurofighter Typhoon aircraft, as well as Malaysian Su-30 MKM. However, detailed results of these engagements have not been publicly disclosed, and there have been descriptions of various scenarios where success swung between the different sides. The F-22 Raptor is a significant milestone in the history of military aviation worldwide. For potential friends and foes alike, it represents a serious challenge and a demonstration of the effectiveness of the design concepts that were incorporated into it. For the United States, it showcases the development of its scientific and technological capabilities and provides a substantial foundation for pursuing future objectives. Thank you for watching. If you liked the video, press like and subscribe. And don't forget to share with your friends.